gonna look trash. Oh, he's back. I think. Oops. Boom. All right, we are live. Hello, guys. This is the two Steves from CanadianGameDevs.com.
Yes.
You guys, okay? All right, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves because you'll probably do a better job of explaining the website than I will. I only know it as a list of cool games and devs in the Canadian community. But I guess you go, yeah, do yourselves justice.
You should go first.
All right.
Oh, and for the
Yeah,
purposes of this entire thing, I'm Steven and he's Steve. That's how we differentiate it.
yeah, that's basically what we do. As our names are the exact same minus a letter. But yeah, CanadianGameDevs.com is a website dedicated to the games created in Canada and like the people who create them. I started the site back in when the hell was that? 2016, when it was just TorontoGameDevs.com, and really because I just wanted an excuse to go to E3 or a way to get to E3.
Right. As many game journalist enterprises are started for that very reason. Yes, I'm familiar with the process.
And I was just like, well, I can't develop a game, and that takes a long time. But I could easily start up a website that just kind of promotes games made in
Idiot can make a website.
And it worked though, so whatever.
And it grew
Yeah, and
into this
then
beautiful community we have now.
exactly, yeah. So throughout the years, just been doing podcasts and stuff, and just kind of the website is mostly just a list of the studios and things. 2 years ago or so, we maybe a bit less. We branched out to all of Canada, and then about a year ago, I brought Steven on to kind of help out because I was going to become a father, and I knew that the site would just die without some additional help because
Right.
I was already not doing that much without a daughter, and then she was born, and I was like, I need it. So Steven came on board.
There can be no new life without a death.
Yeah, it's like every reaction has an opposite reaction or whatever. And so yeah, we've been going 4 years or so. We do a podcast, weekly podcast. We post jobs. We have a Discord.
Post jobs.
Events.
Apparently successfully too, because people keep coming back to us and they're like, "This filled out great, so we're gonna buy another job." I was like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad we can help that way.
So that's me. I don't know, Steven, if you wanna, you can now introduce yourself.
So my name's Steven, but it's spelled Phan, like Stefan, but Steven because my dad fucked it up. But that's fine. Oh, can we swear on this? I assume so.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, cool.
They played Always Sometimes Monsters. I'm sure the audience is fine.
Excellent. I went to school for game design development, and I graduated May of last year. And then so I got a job in Halifax at an indie game studio, moved out here. And I'd followed CanadianGameDevs.com on Twitter for a while, and I was always looking for like side freelance stuff to do. And one day Steve just tweeted, "Hey, I'm looking to help or get help on the site." So email and apply I did, and he liked me above everyone else. What was it, Steve? 200 applicants was you had to go through? No,
it was like 10. It was like 10 or 12 people or so. So you beat out.
You go. I say there was roughly 500 applicants, and he said, "Steven, that's the one." The name just spoke to him. I don't know, something about it. So yeah, and then I joined, and now we publish articles, go to events, do events. We did EGLX last year. That was fun. But yeah, that's what I do. And the studio I work at in Halifax is called Red Meat Games. We're working on a couple games at the moment.
Tell us more about that.
Well, okay, so Red Meat Games gets a lot of hate, and the management's changed recently. And I don't know how much I want to say on a live stream, but I'll just say the next game Red Meat Games is working on is probably the coolest looking game they've ever done. So if you go to their website, which I hate, I just want to say the website's not the best, and look at their old games. I'll say the new games, multiplayer, asymmetrical game coming to PC and consoles. It's got kind of like hidden roles, so that's ooh spicy. But yeah, I don't know how much more we're allowed to talk about. But yeah, I do junior game design stuff there, so I like pitch game design stuff and then write stuff so that art and programming knows what we're talking about, and then just test while everyone else is doing real work.
And is that the like long-term path you want to take?
I'd like to move up more like a level design position somewhere, maybe a bigger studio, because I like making
I
level.
assume you don't want to be a junior forever, but I mean, like game design generally, like that's your calling now.
Yeah, although I do enjoy covering the scene a lot and talking about it. I have a lot of opinions. Steve knows. Steve has disagreements about some of my opinions, but we have good conversations about them. But yeah, as far as what I want to do in the gaming scene, design's my jam.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so I guess to start things off, like, what would you say the current state of like the Canadian games industry, like nationwide, like how are we doing compared to the rest of the world? What are our weaknesses and what are our strengths as a country and as a game developing culture?
Well, as a culture, just from the numbers, we are just exponentially growing year over year. Like studios are opening all like just this year. Stadia opened a studio. Past couple of years, Bethesda, Gearbox, Respawn just opened a studio. It's like they're just adding hundreds of thousands of jobs in the Canadian space like every year, and the tax credits are a huge part of that. CMF and then provincial tax credits. So studios will open up here. You don't have to pay healthcare. You get huge tax credits from the government for just helping to pay people to work on games here. So it's just exponent. It's almost a straight line if you look at it. But as far as weaknesses, I don't know. See, that's a tough question.
Yeah, I don't know.
The tax credits
I guess
aren't countrywide. And I was talking to we talked to Michael Long in Saskatchewan, and he's talked about kind of the dire state of gaming in sort of the middle of Canada,
Right.
is where it's extremely weak and not supported. So that's I would say just from talking to developers that everyone leaves those areas to go to either Quebec, Ontario, or BC, and that's where video games get made in those hubs.
I was just talking to an accounting firm the other night about who specialize like doing accounting for like game developers and stuff, and we did like
insert coin.
Oh,
there you go.
Interesting.
And they mentioned how Saskatchewan is like one of the only provinces that doesn't have it, and then I guess Alberta was going to have it, or like they had set it all up, and then like just before COVID hit, they like canceled it all. So I think there's still like some work to be done there. I also got to imagine that like just with any sort of industry, probably finding like talents is like difficult, because I think even when people think about going to like become a game developer, they think about like kind of the big studios and stuff like that, and most of them they have their head offices like somewhere else. Like they might have like a secondary studio here in Canada, similar to like Certain Affinity or with Respawn, but
and Ubisoft, Bethesda, Gearbox, they all just open studios here for all the perks mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and so I think that's like part of it, just like finding the talent. But I think that's getting better and better. Like now there's schools, especially here in Toronto, and Steven can attest to this, that like specialize in game design, game programming, and doing that stuff. And that stuff didn't really exist like 10 years ago.
Right.
Co-ops too. Like we have people on our server, the CanadianGameDevs server. It's a cool little community. They like kids from Sheridan will get jobs at Ubisoft Toronto or Gearbox in Quebec, and those connections are being made like at the educational level, which is super cool. Every school, I think, if you're going to a game design program and they don't have a co-op, seriously reconsider, because co-op's like the key part of that, in my opinion.
Right. But
I would agree with that with like any industry. Right?
Yeah, probably any job, but specifically gaming.
I wish I had co-op.
Yeah, but like in terms of like how Canadian games or the Canadian games industry is perceived on the world stage, like Japan, for example, has a very specific there's whole genres of games that are very specifically Japanese. People know the games that come out of America. I often feel like Canada doesn't necessarily have as much of that, but I've also not been observant of the games industry for the past 6+ years. So I'm curious if there is a cultural identity in terms of the types of games people are used to seeing from Canada, or if there is a cultural identity that has been forming from the games that have been produced here.
I mean, you see Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, like, I've been asked this a couple times, especially when I was doing when it was just Toronto game devs, and I don't know, I don't think so, because like especially here in Toronto, like it's so multicultural that you have a bunch of like people with different backgrounds and different like influences and stuff like that it's hard to tell if something like is Canadian. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I've been asked that a couple of times, and I don't think like there's no there's no like Canadian RPGs or anything like that equivalent like a JRPG.
CRPGs.
I don't know.
CRPGs.
I've heard somebody make the argument for CRPGs. When you look at was it Actual Sunlight, To the Moon, and Always Sometimes Monsters, all RPG Maker games based on ethical choices, all made within like a 20-kilometer radius of each other.
You might be making the genre for us.
It is the genre. But,
There you go.
but I presume that with all these big studios, there would be some commonality if they're all pulling from the same talent pool or whatever. But I guess not.
I don't know. I don't think it's quite there. I don't know, Steven, do you have like a different thought on
I
that?
see Canadian iconography and stuff and themes in a lot of these games. Like a lot of them are set in Canada, like Celeste, The Long Dark, Short Hike. They're all based on Canadian places and experiences, and definitely like Celeste especially sneaks little things in everywhere. A Short Hike, if you've ever been to Algonquin Park, is just, you can tell that, and he says that's what inspired the game. And The Long Dark's like northern Quebec. So you see the settings in the games developed here, and that's probably because the people lived in and go to those settings frequently.
Right.
But there's no like I don't see a game like, oh, that's a Canadian game. I would have to like go to their Twitter, see where they're based, and then be like, oh, cool, the game's developed in Canada. It can't really pick out, and all these big studios just make the bigger AAA games that are supposed to hit all of North America, Europe markets. So there's no way to sneak in the Canadian feel to it without compromising that need for it to be shipped all over Europe and North America.
Right. Well,
one thing I've always wanted is because like games will like remake New York City, or they'll remake Los Angeles.
GTA Toronto, don't you, Steve?
Yeah, I so badly do. I want to drive around Toronto.
That'd be so boring.
What do you mean? It'd be so cool. I don't know.
So do you guys like get super hyped when you do see like the Toronto map announced for Overwatch 2, for example? Like,
okay, that was pretty hype. I thought that was really cool. You got
That was
Nathan
pretty
Phillips
cool.
Square there and the big hockey statue. Did you know Mirror's Edge is based on downtown Toronto?
no, I did not.
Is there?
Yeah. If you look at the skyline, there's like a new age CN Tower type thing, and they actually, it's like a kind of like a futuristic reimagined Mirror's Edge, but that wasn't even developed entirely in Canada, so that's a weird one to have that. But yeah, no open world game is going to be set in Vancouver. That's just, who would do that? London's so much more exciting, Steve.
But,
I know.
but
I saw-
Everyone's seen London in movies and stuff.
I saw the Scott Pilgrim game might like come back, and that's set in Toronto.
Toronto is where
You mean-
people film movies set in New York where they couldn't afford to go to New York.
You mean
So why would they ever?
the
Instead of
Scott
game here.
Pilgrim game will come back from internet obscurity, like it'll be for sale again somewhere.
Never. Some
I saw,
license. Purgatory.
Yeah,
I mean, the
think
greatest
it's the-
Canadian game. I mean, it is the most it's the most Toronto game ever.
most
I'd
Toronto.
probably give it most Toronto game.
Sorry, Actual Sunlight.
Oh wow. That was it.
I saw something about like the Scott Pilgrim Twitter like did the eye emoji or something about like someone bringing that back or something along those lines. Like obviously nothing was like official, but
Right.
I saw something about that. Maybe the rights will, because that game's been offline for quite a while, and I'm sure it would. I'm sure if they just threw that thing onto PS4 with some trophies, I'm sure
Right.
it would sell well.
I mean, somebody wants that money. I got somebody wants that money.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I don't know
yeah.
what the Scott Pilgrim guys do anymore, but
Rolling around
Probably.
in blankets of dollar bills, Steve. That's what he's doing.
maybe he released all those big things in 1 year though. He probably paid a lot of taxes on that. He's got to now get he's got to get something going.
If you pay taxes on any of that, he doesn't have a good accountant. Not enough offshore accounts.
Right.
The Scott Pilgrim LLC is based in Ireland.
I mean, that was it's weird that it was like such a definitively Canadian experience. Especially, I mean, like I remember that year, and everybody was going nuts over Scott Pilgrim. The movie was still probably like six months away or something like that, and like I'm just shocked that didn't translate. Like, is our market smaller than I think it is I guess the question. like our game buying market, our media consumption market. Like we're a big population and we definitely consume a ton of entertainment, but like I know what my Steam numbers look like, and Canada isn't number 2. For despite how Canadian we are, you know, in terms of our actual player base, not Canada is like on like 5th or something on the list, pretty far down there.
Canada's actually a huge market for Nintendo. If you look into their numbers, Nintendo does like per capita really, really well in Canada, which is why they push it everywhere all the time, and they have like Nintendo Canada channels going ham. But yeah, for most games, Canada's like somewhere in the lower top 10.
I think we do get faked out a little bit, especially because like Toronto is so big. It's like the 3rd or 4th biggest market, like in terms of cities, market in North America. I think it's only like LA, New York, and Chicago or something. But in general, like we're 10% of the population of the U.S. So theoretically, we would have 10% of the amount of like consumption when it comes to like movies and video games and ratings on TV, like sporting events and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think it like even like I think it's always around like that 10%, 15% mark, because that's like how our population is. Because even though we have like people who are like rural and distant, like in Saskatchewan, it's like a population of 1 million. The state still has that with like Arizona and all those other like middle states. So I think we do get faked out, especially like in Toronto, where it's like there's like 4 million people here.
Right. But the States has got like 30 plus cities that same size.
Yeah, exactly. Like Seattle is like, you know, probably a couple million or so, and it's just like so far down on the list of like other places like Dallas and Miami and Washington and Boston, blah 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 blah. So
Yep. All right. So then, is it perilous for a game developer to build their game to a Canadian audience? I mean, assuming first off, are there any differences in the audience? Do we have a different taste for games?
I don't think so. You really?
Maybe.
All right.
I don't know.
Fight. Disagree. Go.
I feel like, yeah, there's probably shit. There's probably some genre that does slightly better here for some reason. Like a GameLoft did that big survey this year. Well, I mean, yeah, NHL games are actually even NHL games probably still sell better in the U.S. But like GameLoft did a big survey this year about like Canadian gaming habits, and my webcam went weird. That's fun. Compared to like other markets, and they found Canadians like to play more action games, more racing games, and they like to play more at night rather than in the evenings. Was like the 3 big takeaways of like this big survey. So like if you're going for the Canadian market, you would try and hit like those, but I don't know whether it's perilous to do that.
What's the difference between night and evening?
Night and evening, a couple hours. Hold on, I'll find the GameLoft survey for you.
Is night after evening?
Yeah. It is?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they
Is this GameLoft survey contrasted with stats from the rest of the world, or America at least? Or is
contrast the provinces, and I think they're in Europe.
Yeah, we wrote about that, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Yeah, the majority of Canadian players are on mobile devices. Slightly more than other markets, but mobile is.
I gotta imagine.
You got it?
I gotta imagine that's true for the U.S. as well. No, sorry.
Yeah, that's probably true for everywhere. Quebecois people game in the evening compared to Albertans by like about a 60 percentile difference. But I don't think they contrast that against other markets.
Right, but
I'm just trying to think of a game that like because games don't really do that, and like the digital distribution is like kind of what makes that really easy. Whereas like when there are markets that are culturally so different, you have to change the game. That's where that happens. Like now that China's opening up, games are changing in a very noticeable way to meet that market. But you don't have to change your game in any meaningful way to sell it between any digital platform in Europe or the States or on Canada.
Especially because the biggest like the biggest populations in Canada are so close to the States. Like Toronto is like a 2-hour drive from the state. Vancouver is like right there, and Montreal is like it's pretty close too. So those three biggest the three biggest like Canadian cities that probably have like I don't know for sure, but like a third of the population of Canada are within like 2 hours of the States. So it's probably pretty. I gotta imagine it's similar. It's not
right, well, and then also nationwide, we just consume so much American media, like nonstop.
Yeah.
Like our Canadian, like we have a strong Canadian film and television industry, but most of that is American productions or, when it is like CBC programming or whatever, that stuff does not do the numbers that like an American television program would do.
Also not as good.
Well,
oh my god, I want to see the 4th Anne of Green Gables remake. I wonder if she'll discover herself in a meaningful way.
You might have just earned some hate from the chat for that one. There's definitely some Anne of Green Gables fans.
I'm not saying that it's not.
Oh no, you've dug your grave. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. You're no longer associated with Canadian GameDevs.
I'm just saying CBC could make better shows. They'd probably do better in American markets, but
well, that's the thing. Like if we're talking about Anne of Green Gables, specifically the latest show, Anne, like it was doing really, really well. Like
was it
uncharacteristically well?
Oh.
For a CBC production, right?
Mm-hmm.
It did so well. Netflix bought it.
Oh, there you go.
And then they canceled it one season later.
That hurts.
Which is like it was weird. It was like very, very Canadian content, but it was just doing tremendously well compared to all expectations. And then they try and bring it to the international market, and it just like. Well, I mean, it's a combination of like I don't think it did the same numbers like internationally as it was doing at home, but also Netflix has that habit of like 3 seasons of anything is too much. The algorithm says so. So I guess that like kind of answers our question about like what are the perils of building something specifically for Canadians. Jane says they canceled it and it caused a huge petition that I think is still ongoing. But it's tragic because like you can't put that show on hiatus or anything because the kids are all growing up so quickly that they age out of the roles or whatever. Yeah.
So they'll remake it again.
Start again. Yeah, but I don't know.
Like requirements whenever you apply for Canadian media funding to you have to have it in French, English, and the people who work on it have to be based. Like if you apply for an Ontario Creates Media Grant, the people who work on it have to be in Ontario, and if you apply for CMF, they have to be in Canada. So all that, but that doesn't change. Like the game could still be set anywhere, right?
Correct.
Like it doesn't have any influence on the game or the media. It just has influence on where the people working on it are.
I mean,
whereas CBC does have a mandate from the government for their funding that what they create has to capture a certain Canadian essence or something. I forget the wording, but it's actually in the mandate that the media has to be Canadian, not just the people working on it.
Darla, yes, this is an incredibly Canadian conversation. I apologize. That's probably going to be for the rest of the night. It's just going to be nonstop Canada talk. That's what
we're doing. A Pengu game. Shout out to Jane OD. I love Pengu. I think that's Swedish. That's Swedish though, isn't it? Hold on. Pengu is who made Pengu? Switzerland.
Switzerland made. So our Canadian childhood was Swiss all along.
Oh man.
Go figure. Just adapt.
What about Nanaland? You guys remember Nanaland?
Oh man, I remember Nanaland.
Was Nanaland Canadian?
Crazy.
Nanaland was
it is. Nanaland Canadian. There we go. That's the quintessential Canadian kids show. 2 seasons, 71 episodes. Have you seen the clip where like she's going through the garden and she's trying to point out all the veggies?
I don't know.
Oh man, that's a good one.
Oh, I know this show.
Yeah, Nanaland.
Yeah,
Nanaland's lit. Yeah. But again, nothing in that is Canadian.
I don't know about lit, but...
Oh man.
Yeah, I think Darla's a fan.
Yeah, Nanaland's great.
Well, okay, so but I mean, it's okay, and Pokeroo is coming up, and now
Pokeroo.
now we're bridging into the fact that like so much of uh our beloved Canadian content is actually for children. Is this what we're learning here?
Yeah, it seems like. Oh, and then all the shows that do well get bought by Netflix and canceled. So
Right. Because apart from like, I mean, Trailer Park Boys is the exception there, but the
they
like,
filmed that here.
do we have any like major successful productions that have reached cultural critical mass that are for adults, or is it all for kids?
Letterkenny. I have American friends who watch Letterkenny,
I don't even
but
have.
again, it's like Letterkenny's on Crave now. I think they're on season 6 or 7. It's crazy, but again, it's like not a real Canadian town, and there's not like really Canadian symbolism in it. That could be like any hick rural town.
Right,
Whereas, and I feel like that applies to Trailer Park Boys to an extent. Like the Canadianness isn't in every episode. It sometimes comes up, but for the most part, that could be any trailer park.
right. Um, well, I mean,
Except when they have Rush on to play hockey.
That's true. There's a my grandma watches Murdoch Mysteries. That's very Canadian,
interesting.
very British and early Canada.
I'm trying to think of ones that I watch, but I nothing's like coming up. Though to be fair, I watched a lot more sports than anything.
Right.
You know, I will say the best CBC original is Working Moms. If you haven't seen Working Moms, it's very funny. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
We've been enjoying Kim's Convenience.
That's the other big one. Not as good. Not as good.
And then that
Depends
dude
on
is
what
going to be in the Marvel movies.
Oh, he's getting ripped.
I know,
Never,
yeah, he's jacked.
Superhero.
never to be in a
Jack Nicholson?
CBC production ever.
No,
Never
he's
again.
making real money now. He's making Hollywood money. He doesn't need that CanCon money.
Right. Well, okay, so I mean, like clearly, Hollywood has established itself, as the film force of the world, no question asked. Is there a place for games that is the equivalent to Hollywood for games? What is the Hollywood of games? Does it exist yet?
Probably wherever all the big ones are, like Riot and them are all in southwestern California. It's probably the tech hub of games. Or obviously Kyoto is where all the big studios like Atlas
I was
and
gonna say-
Nintendo and stuff.
I was going to say like Japan. I think like in terms of North America, I don't know. Yeah, maybe just the tech hub.
Per capita, it might be Montreal though, as far as like game developers per person making money in that city. Because Ubisoft Montreal is like 6,000 employees or more. It's insane.
Right.
Yeah, and then you get people who quit Ubisoft Montreal and then
Start
form their
indie
own company.
studios. In Montreal now, we've got Gearbox, Bethesda, Stadia just opened a new studio, Ubisoft, and probably a couple other ones I'm missing. So that might be, as far as outside of California, probably the game development hub.
I don't think it's really recognized as that though.
No, because they're all just working on other projects. Because like Ubisoft's French, Bethesda and Gearbox are U.S. companies, but they get a bunch of their development done there.
Right. And so you think this is largely due to the tax credits?
Tax credits, free healthcare, and you get to pay them in Canadian dollars. So I mean, it's a triple threat.
Right. And so what is your familiarity with the role that the government plays in growing the industry? Do you guys have much awareness of what that process is like? We personally been through it once, but we are very distant from any sort of officialness. Like we're a little too indie for paperwork and stuff.
Which one did you do? Was it Ontario Crates or CMF?
Those didn't exist when we applied. The Ontario Crates didn't exist. Like it was
OMDC, Ontario
at the-
Media
yeah.
Development Corporation.
Yeah.
The full government rebranded with a hot new logo, and
Yeah.
my familiarity is not huge. Like I've gone to a couple. Nova Scotia has a interactive society, which is kind of just the studios put that together. But then there's actually like the government like game development like bureau as like free drink nights and there's food, so I go. But they talk about how the tax credits are to help get studios hiring people, get people moving to the city to work at. We got Ubisoft here, and Bethesda just opened a studio here. And so the tax credits are mainly for they cover part of it's different for different deals sometimes they make, but they can cover part of employees' salaries. So at the end of the year, you're like, I paid this much for my employees, take like the top 10% of tax off or something. And that's huge when you're paying a studio of like 100 people.
Right.
So that's one of the big parts. And then the grants are different. So like to get a CMF grant, there's like different phases to the application process too. So there's like a prototype grant you can apply for, a pre-production grant you can apply for, a production grant you can apply for, and then like a post-game marketing grant that you can apply for after the game comes out. And some studios apply for like all four of them, or like they have a prototype and they just want to get development funding. And that's a lot of paperwork, as you said, like 20 to 50 pages, depending on what you're applying for.
Right.
And you really need someone who knows the numbers and accounting to do that. So that's a huge barrier to that. But if you name pretty much any major successful Canadian game, they got government funding for it. So
right.
Yeah.
Because I think the premise is like, why not? Right? Like
Yeah.
it's available.
Like it's free money.
Yeah, the media fund, as far as I understand it, it's like they're investing in the game and they'll make a certain amount of money back based off what you make off it. So if you don't make any money off the launch of your game, you don't owe the government any money, but they will take money back into the investment based on how successful your game is. So there really is no reason not to. If your game flops, you don't owe them any money. If it doesn't, you both make money, and you wouldn't have had the money to make the game without their help.
It's interesting. This is just a rogue thought in my head, but like the government is very ready, eager, and willing to invest in studios and games and growth in those sectors. But I have yet to see any significant like platform developments come out of the country. I mean, this is a massive undertaking, but there's never been an Epic Game Store, an OnLive, or those kind of anybody really championing that. And I wonder if like the long-term if you're successful, the long-term benefit of owning a platform is substantially greater than having a successful game, or even a successful franchise, or even a successful studio that produces multiple franchises, right? The key is owning a platform. And we have like zero stake in any of the platforms, and it's one of those things that like obviously it would be radically impossible to do, but for long-term development benefit, like it's something that I think maybe could be looked at.
Yeah, they don't even get tax on some of the platforms because the companies operate outside of Canada. So like you pay tax on Nintendo games, but you don't pay tax on PlayStation games. So if you buy a $79.99 game on the PlayStation Store, it's $79.99. But if you buy it on Nintendo or the Xbox Store, you pay Canadian tax based on your province on top of that. So Canada is also just even missing out on sales tax on games sold on platforms that aren't even in Canada.
Right.
But yeah, the platform.
I would owe them so much money.
Yeah. Oh, as far as Nintendo is concerned, I'm in Nunavut paying 5% sales tax. But we don't need to get into that. But yeah, you just need that huge treasure trove of FU money that Epic has to even try to compete in PC.
Right.
But like Green Man Gaming, I think is UK, CD Projekt Red and GOG is Poland.
Poland, I think, yeah.
Yeah, they are
Poland. And China's just like cracking down on their own thing, really, and Chinese companies are kind of taking control of that. But Canada doesn't really have anything. We're not really like, I don't know if big enough's the right word, but like the UK, China, and Poland. I don't know what's bigger, Poland or Canada. But yeah, we don't have that one company who can have that bunch of FU money to just start something.
The only company that I think kind of qualifies would be like Rogers. Like Rogers is just starting up like some sort of gaming division or
I
something.
don't even want to imagine what a Rogers store would look like. That's hellish. I hope it fails.
Oh man, this is a deep.
Netflix.
I hope they do it, and then it fails so badly they have to sell the Toronto Blue Jays to a company that's Rogers.
There was one. Now that I'm thinking about it, I remember when I was young, I went to the movie theater, and they would give me like a code and it was like web based, and you download the games. It was definitely like, it was one of the like Bell or some Canadian telecom company that was running it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm talking like late night, maybe 2000, like really really a long time ago, and I can, oh, it's like on the tip of my brain, and I'm gonna remember it after.
I think
It's not Big Fish.
No.
I feel like the Rogers. I'm trying to remember like how flip phones used to have games, and I feel like I bought like a Call of Duty, like flip phone game through like a Rogers app or something on my flip phone.
God damn, I'm never
I'm
gonna
trying to
remember
remember.
this.
You know who actually?
It was not helping at all.
Capybara might have something on that actually.
But anyway, it like at the same time, like, do I really want a Canadian-owned platform? Considering, you know, I'm really happy that we sell our game in USD, and
Yeah.
you know, it's nice. I mean, who knows what the market will do long term, but
yeah, that's the benefit to a lot of like Canadian companies is that typically they all market towards like an American company, and so they charge in USD, but then they just pay their staff and their rent and their expenses or whatever in Canadian, so they get like a little boost. Like I've been part of a couple of companies that just like they're just shrug that off. They're just like, yeah, we get, it's like a bonus money. Really.
right.
That's free real estate.
Okay, so but this is all stuff that heavily pertains to the AAA industry and studios that hire, you know, 1,500 people and, you know, 40 guys working on grass textures or whatever. Let's talk about the indie scene.
Yes, let's. Where the real magic happens.
In addition to these many big studios, we have a surprising number of independent game developers across all of our big cities. Where do you think these people come from? Why are they here? Are they getting this? Do they exist because of the same benefits the AAA studios are getting, the tax credits, the free money, and you know, low wages and healthcare benefits, or are they also, you know, wherever there is a AAA studio, there is fallout from them, people quit, that kind of thing? Like, what do you think is the real source of these indie game devs? Where do they come from? Where do they go?
Ubisoft and EA. They get sick of working on grass textures for 5 years.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna make a game that's actually interesting, and they quit and they take their savings and do that. But the grants actually do help a lot of Canadian indie startup. Like, I don't know how much money they had to start with, but Behavior or whoever did Dead by Daylight, they were CMF funding. Outlast was CMF funding. We Happy Few was CMF funding. So all like the, I don't know, double A or single A like indie projects also got a lot of CMF funding, and all the indies in Toronto get a lot of Ontario crates. Like I see Ontario crates on every Drinkbox game, on every Vertex Pop game, and so the funding is helping a lot. And the provinces that don't have it are losing their developers to the provinces that do. They're leaving Saskatchewan and Alberta, and they're going to BC and Toronto, Vancouver, Victoria area. So definitely, it has something to do with the AAAs being there and the grants being you can apply. I know, like a solo developer can apply for a grant. It'd be hard to get and do all that work by yourself, but it's still possible to get that money. Right. So it's all the things you mentioned are making these hubs of indie games.
So but do you think without the government support, where would our industry be at this stage?
Oh, a lot less developed.
Yeah.
I mean, how many? I mean, not to throw a dark cloud over everything, but how many of these indie games are self-sustaining? How many of them are, you know, that get support are producing profit in sizable manners?
For every, you can see them all on the CMF website. I've gone through and looked at them, and for every like Outlast, We Happy Few, Dead by Daylight, there's like 1,000 projects that didn't do very well, if at all. So that's, but then those developers develop their skills. Maybe they go back into the AAA industry. Maybe they go get a job at one of these other success stories like Red Barrels or I think it's Behavior Interactive did Dead by Daylight, and they're just massive now. So the dark cloud is there, and that's okay. The government's okay with that because that fund, the CMF, if you don't know, comes from taxing all the other companies in Canada that operate in the media space. Like Rogers and Bell pay into the fund that is used to create this content. So that money is not like taxpayer money that's getting wasted or something.
Gotcha.
It's money meant to just keep this industry developing.
Right. I think that is one of the large misconceptions about entertainment grants is that, like, when I first broached the topic with a lot of, quote unquote grown up people that I know, they were like very. It's actually that's one of the great arguments that the Americans have. Whenever the concept of entertainment grants comes across, they're like, well, that those are taxpayer money. They need to go for the good of the taxpayer. But what you're telling me is that it's largely the large ISPs and telecom companies that are paying into these things rather than individuals.
Yes, Rogers abuses the shit out of Steve for his internet, and then we tax Rogers and use that money to pay Canadian game developers to try some cool shit. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe we have a new Outlast, maybe we don't.
Right.
And
And
that's
and then I'll download the game using my Rogers internet that I overpay for.
Whoa, full circle.
But I mean, we've come to the conclusion now that Canadian grant support increases the number of games by a wide margin. It also
Absolutely.
increases the number of failures by a wide margin, right?
Not failures. I would
Or
yeah,
not fine.
games that
The
don't
not
do well
successes.
after. Yeah, I'm not huge financial success.
Now, one of the major reasons why games are not succeeding these days is because of oversaturation. Right? I'm looking at the numbers. I had a hard look at the numbers when we shipped, comparing the state of Steam in 2014 versus the state of Steam now, and there are like 10 to 15 times more games being released every single week compared to 5 years ago.
There's no curation.
Well, it's not that there's no curation. Yeah. Even if there was curation, right? I mean, that's just the design of the algorithm sending them to you, right?
Right.
It's still there's all of these game developers making games, and so I'm wondering if there is an inflection point where the great support that we are as a nation are giving our game developers is also sort of self-cannibalizing in a negative way.
Is that tied back into the platform question? Like if there was a Canadian platform for these games that Canada is funding, that would solve that issue.
It's a matter of like, we always start our marketing at home, right? Like it starts in our local indie communities, spreading the word of mouth, spreading the game around, and that trickles up all the way until actual release. If you can't get a sizable ball rolling by the time you leave your local market, it's going to be really hard to build a snowman by the time you hit the international waters. And so I'm really wondering if you guys think there would be some benefit to curbing the access to these programs, as great as they are. And I'll let you guys answer that in your own terms.
Someone whose studio gets those grants, I'm probably biased here, but yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, and I think the bigger question, rather than is this like maybe a waste of money or should we like scale it into like a few more surefire projects, is should we expand who's paying into this to those platform holders who are kind of oversaturating our market. Like Netflix doesn't pay in, and like 90% of Canadians have a Netflix subscription. Right. So that's them oversaturating our market without putting money back in to help us, create our own content. And I think if we could look at expanding where we get the money for these grants, from the platforms that are being oversaturated and not allowing our games made here to succeed as much. I think that's probably a better tact. And I also just think Netflix should pay taxes here for making money here, but that's a wild concept. I don't
Right,
know.
but I mean, if you start adding extra money into the pot, then it's like, okay, under the current system, that means, you know, n more developers get added to the pile, which contributes further to the oversaturation problem.
But it
Which
also means and more successes. You know, like the successes will happen at
does
the
it?
same rate. I
Does
think
it?
so. Yeah, I think
Because we're having fewer successes because of the oversaturation.
yes, but okay. This is like a snake eating its tail thing because like
Right.
those people aren't able to make the games without that funding, and if they weren't able to make the games, there'd be less games coming out. Oh man, this is too much for me. It's
I
like
think.
9
Well, I
p.m.
think it's like it's like with the just like as an investment, like you can't really like games take a long time to make,
Way
and
too long.
you can't just like if something doesn't like succeed or blow up the first time, that doesn't mean you should kind of like bail on the idea or bail on funding or anything like that. Like you can name a lot of developers that might have had a little bit of success or like almost a failure the first time around and then like really blew it up the second third time around. So I think it's like the province understands that there is saturation, but like you gotta kind of just keep pumping money into it because also now more than ever, like games are easier to purchase. So like back in the day, like 20 years ago, like if you didn't see something at EB Games, like you couldn't really buy it. Like you would have to scrounge around. But now, like add a game to your Steam wish list, and sometime within that year, that game is going to be like $5. And
Right.
then like maybe you don't buy it then, you buy it the next year, and then it's like $4, and that's less money to go to the developer, obviously. But there's it's still kind of just like feeding the pipeline and just kind of still throwing like it's weird to say it's just like just throw money at it, but it's kind of like how I think it's going how I think it should be handled. Obviously, you should not just throw money around to everyone who asks for money, but I think there's a thing where it's like, yeah, there's going to be failures, there's going to be successes, but if you just kind of keep cycling it, you're going to get like more mildly successful things. Like the other thing that kind of like I always think about is like a game doesn't need to be the next Stardew Valley to be considered like a success.
Agreed.
And so if you just like make enough to like warrant the next game or just like you have a good footing, like a good community behind your game, then like that I would consider a success, even though you didn't sell like 10 million copies.
A lot of the times, the first project gets grant funding, and then they kind of don't need it anymore because they have established a community, established some seed money, or I guess their own money, not seed money. But yeah, like Outlast 1 was CMF, and then Outlast 2 wasn't, and then Contrast and We Happy Few was CMF, and then they got bought by Xbox.
Right, but
And
that's CMF though. CMF is payback, right? It's not
it's
free money.
you don't have to pay back what they gave you. They are gonna take from the game's profits to a certain point. So if your game doesn't have any profits, there's
Right.
no penalty.
But if you're successful, then of course you don't want to use CMF. But I mean, I
Mhm.
definitely guarantee that you know, had We Happy Few or Outlast being made in Ontario, they would definitely be Ontario creates still because there's zero payback on those.
They would have done both probably. Got as many pockets of money they could.
Right? No, I mean for follow up projects.
Oh yeah,
Right?
probably.
Right? Because that's the other side of the system is that like there's when there's no reason not to take it, everybody's always going to take it.
Mhm.
And so it always gives this little safety buffer. And I'm very hesitant to advocate for like fewer projects getting more funding, even though I think it's kind of the right answer to combat the local/global oversaturation. It's I mean, that money's also going to come from other places. Like every single platform holder is just dumping money into the games industry right now. You've got Epic just like throwing money at everybody right now. There's a million indie funds that are all throwing money into the industry right now. Like it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, money's flying into the system. Like Ubisoft has its own like indie funding series.
Yeah, EA Originals and the Kickstarters. Like we had the most successful Kickstarter video game Canadian Kickstarter ever this year, like a couple months ago. So like the people are just paying for it too. Like you don't even need this fund if you have the audience.
Right, but in a system where it's always available and always beneficial to take it, you're still going to do both.
Yeah.
So I guess this is another moot. We're not going to be able to solve the oversaturation issue by attacking Canadian game funding today, unfortunately.
On Twitch aren't going to solve Canada's Canadian content funding problem?
I mean,
Trudeau's probably watching, taking notes.
I hope so.
I mean, is he
Trudeau
still in
probably
lockdown,
plays like
right?
shitty games. Trudeau probably plays like he plays like Warzone and then buys all the chests just to get it faster.
He's a busy guy. He's a busy guy, you know?
He's got the Star Wars socks. He's playing Battlefront 2.
Yo, Battlefront 2 they fixed. It's all right. It's good.
They didn't fix it. They unfucked it.
All right.
Same thing.
If Trudeau's got shitty taste in games, what world politician has the best taste in games?
Angela Merkel. I saw her at Gamescom once.
With the farming simulator booth?
Yes, I watched that happen. I was in the room.
Amazing.
Yeah, Angela Merkel's got the best taste in games. World leader, hands down. And then probably... I mean, Frank Underwood played Vita. So, I mean, there you go, Steve. That's... on House of Cards, right. The fictional president of the U.S. had probably got a good trophy score going, Steve.
Right. Well,
Doug Ford probably plays Farmville. I bet he still plays Farmville. People unfriend Doug Ford because he like sends them Farmville requests in the year 2020.
Is Facebook? I haven't been on Facebook in years, but does Facebook gaming still exist? Is that a thing still?
We're pushing into streaming really hard. Like one of the main bars at the top now is like your newsfeed profile and gaming, or at least it is on mine. I don't know if it's different if they think you like games. Right. But yeah, live streaming on Facebook. I go to the front page and they're hitting like 3,000 or 4,000 viewers for each stream. So they're definitely trying to get into that.
They're doing that with sports too. Like Blue Jay games were on Facebook like last year or whatever. So I think they're getting more into that than actually a platform for things.
But as far as gaming on the desktop, I think most of the gaming happens in Messenger. And there's lots of like Pokemon has a Messenger game, and like a couple other big ones have Messenger games. So they're definitely trying to do something with Messenger. And I've played some fun ones like with group chats. You can start it and everyone plays sort of asynchronously. So there's definitely potential there for something cool. I haven't played one yet though.
Well, what are you playing now?
Right now, Steve and I have been playing Apex because it came to PS4. And now that Respawn Vancouver opened, it counts as a Canadian studio, so we streamed it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, wait a minute. What is your threshold for Canadian studio here?
Threshold is they have a studio in Canada, I guess. We haven't really quantified it. We've had weird situations with indie teams where like one person on the game is Canadian, or like they're Canadians but they live in the States, and we're like, this is kind of a gray area, but they were cool, so we covered it. Like Atomic Crops just came out this week, and Toby Dixon is the artist, and he's in Toronto, but it's a team of 3. One of them's in Europe, and one of them's in the States, I think. So we're just like, it's 1/3 Canadian. We'll throw it on the site. But yeah, it gets weird with remote teams, and I like studios that have, like Ubisoft. Not every Ubisoft game we cover because a lot of them aren't made by Ubisoft Montreal or Winnipeg or Halifax or all those ones.
Yeah, I've had a deep look into the Ubisoft pipeline before, and it's amazing how decentralized things actually are. You know, you've got like Shanghai making a lot of the environmental assets, and then you've got like Red Storm's working on all of the like motion capture and the gun sound effects, and then you've got, you know, like maybe Montreal is like gluing it all together, and it's like you know, they above most of the other companies I've dove into are like wildly globalized, like in a very it's core to their identity.
Yeah, there was a while where Ubisoft Toronto was like the studio behind the weird shit in games. So like they did this Far Cry 4 Shangri-La thing, which is like the psychedelic, the psychedelic like part. So like they were doing that stuff. and they have like motion capture too. But then like they announced Assassin's Creed Valhalla or whatever has like 25 studios attached to it.
Oh, that must be a nightmare. That's got to be like 15 time zones, like 10,000 people. I can't imagine the project management on that game.
I hate project management more than anything. I'm awful at it and it stresses me out. If I had to manage the Valhalla, like how the guy went on the Xbox thing and got ripped apart, I would
Oh,
just
man.
throw up.
It's
I would
never
jump
worth
off of
it. Yeah, shout out to Ashraf putting up with all the bullshit. Although that trailer was bullshit. They said gameplay trailer and that was all pre-rendered. But you know, no one deserves death threats over a video game. People, it's toys. But yeah, it's a lot. I don't envy. I'm amazed if Valhalla comes out and it put it in and it functions with how many different languages, time zones they're working with. That's insane.
Right.
Beyond Good and Evil
Yeah.
is never it's never coming out.
It's never coming out.
I don't think so.
What comes out first, Steve? Beyond Good and Evil 2 or Final Fantasy Remake Part 2?
Oh shit. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we never see either of those games.
Yeah, I could see that.
Huh. You know, we say that there were people who thought my game would never come out, and yet here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
You did it.
You got some you got some sass on Wikipedia too, where they mentioned like how long it took.
Yeah.
How long it took for it to come out.
That's
how it goes, you know.
States are just like sand in our hands collectively.
You know, it's just memory now. It's nothing but memory now. You know, it's it's all.
We have a wish list this segment on our podcast where we mostly Steven just gets like 3 games that are kind of coming out that are Canadian, and just like we kind of wish list them on the spot to help out with the whole Steam algorithm shit. And one of the games, I forget what game it was, but one game the like release date was just when it's ready.
Yeah,
like, wow.
People are getting really funny with Steam release dates. I've seen some really funny ones.
It's
no point in saying TV.
Nah, TBD's dumb. Get fun with it. Do something sarcastic. I appreciate that.
Right. And so wait, did we actually say what we were playing yet?
Oh no, we've been playing Apex.
Right.
I don't know what else I've been playing some Apple Arcade games because I renewed that subscription. Winding Worlds from co-op mode. Check it out. It's pretty dope. Do you like Nog? Did you try Nog? Nog's weird. It's their next game after Nog, and it's kind of like a spiritual successor in quotes. Yeah, I've been playing all these free games that are coming out all the time, like on Epic and stuff. Like I jump in for a couple minutes, and then I'm like, oh, this is fine to jump out. So I haven't really been playing anything too hardcore.
Oh, speaking of Sludge Life just dropped
Sludge Life's free. What?
On Epic. Yeah.
It's free for a year, I saw.
Yeah, that's insane.
I haven't looked at the game none at all, but I'm a huge Dose 1 fan, so I highly recommend.
Ooh.
I'll cop it. I find though with all these things, like I buy them or whatever, and then I just never touch them. Like I logged into the Twitch like store thing.
Which is a mess.
I have like 7.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Steve?
Wait.
Oh,
am I there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're here. Yeah, I think you were gonna say 70 games. I can't tell.
Oh, 70. I have like 70 games on Twitch, and I just like never played any of them. Nor will I probably ever.
And one day your daughter will inherit this account with $10,000 worth of games on it that you've just added every week over your life.
She gets my PlayStation trophy, so there's no better thing I can leave her than my PlayStation trophy.
Better things you could leave her, but that's okay.
She has money accounts too. She'll get that. She'll get a lot of money and PlayStation trophies.
What have you been playing, Steve?
Final Fantasy VII Remake. I have like 3 chapters left or something. I'm kind of like
You weeb trash.
such a high, you know, like the roller coaster where you're going up and then you just like fall straight down. Like
Hmm.
I was so high on this game, I was like, this is amazing, and now I'm just like, fucking just wrap this up. Like, let's
What, a
get this
JRPG
going.
dragged near the end and went on longer than it should have? I
Not the end,
never.
though. It's like 15% of the original game that they just stretched out, and like I feel like if you didn't play the original, you would just be playing this being like, who, like when they show Sephiroth and stuff like that, you're just like, who is this? Also, I heard about the launch trailer like being spoilery, and I finally like watched it, and straight up they just spoil shit from like that you find out in the last like 20% of the game right in the trailer. They just drop it. It's I'm like, what are you guys doing? So I've been playing that. Apex Legends, obviously.
It's the best
Um,
Battle Royale game ever made. Change my mind. No.
I played Minecraft Dungeons last
Dungeons?
night,
Mhm.
and it's Minecraft Dungeons or whatever. It's like
We
a
established it's the poor man's river bond. That's what Minecraft
Nice. That's nice.
Dungeons
it really is though. Like
It is.
it's we were
Just
talking about this
play
on
Vagabond.
Discord. It's basically the only difference is like because you can't build at Minecraft Dungeons, which is weird for a Minecraft game. But the it's like Riverbond is more arcadey, like you go for the high score, and Minecraft just has more RPG elements. Other than that, they're like the exact same game, and so whatever. It's Game Pass. I don't like. I just downloaded it and tried it, and I'm like, whatever. And then I will probably.
They need to delete it for the
probably
next Warzone update.
No, I got rid of Warzone.
Oh, good.
Fuck that noise.
Thank God. How about you? What have you been playing?
Me? I finally gifted myself Doom Eternal.
Ooh, spicy.
And they finally got rid of Denuvo, so I've reinstalled it.
Excellent. And
Um,
do you like it? It's crunchy. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
no, I love that. Let's see, what else did I play? Recently, I played Wintermoor Tactics Club.
I had no idea what that is.
It's like a indie game, indie tactics RPG, set in a fictional, like, Harry Potter-esque academy. Well, I say Harry Potter, there's zero magic in it. But, like, that kind of vibe. And there's, like, this, like, role-playing club that likes to play D&D. And
Okay.
so they resolve all their social issues through games of D&D. And that's where the tactics game is played, and then the rest of it is like narrative RPG. So that was that. Oh yeah, I've been playing Animal Crossing too.
Oh yeah, that's just a given.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm at a point with the game where like I need to like invent a good project to like take on in the game, because like right now it just feels like a daily check-in on your mobile game kind of thing, where it's like, okay, you know, is there a new KK Slider album in the store? What is the turnip price for the day? Tap my rocks, dig up the fossils. Can I buy a painting? Other than that, there's like literally nothing else going on in that game for me anymore.
Paid off your house?
Have I what?
Paid off your house in full?
Yeah, like ages ago. I hustled I hustled a couple turnips, and that was it.
Oh, I just did it this week. I thought it was cool, but whatever.
Oh yeah, it's
fine.
super cool, man.
Thank you.
It's so nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Applaud me.
It's one of those things. Like I really enjoyed it when I had like an idea, like I wanted to make like a little outdoor onsen kind of spa area, and I had a lot of fun, like, you know, picking items and that kind of thing for that. You know, I made like a little observation area. You know, I've recently made okay, so here's the thing. I've been collecting money trees.
Okay.
I don't shake them. I just like I replant them, and now I just have a forest full of money trees, which is a thing I enjoy. But it's
That is
useless.
fun.
Does the money not? Do they not like go away or whatever?
Never goes
I
away.
only had so many days.
Just sits there.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So my
And you can put more into it to get like a chance at more back. Like, I think like up to 30,000 bells, you
Right.
can get 90,000 back.
Yeah, I just I've been they're all 10,000 bags, and you know, I just they all sit there because I don't need any more money. Once you hustle turnips a little bit, you don't need any money. You're good. I have millions of
do you
dollars
guys-
in the bank. I don't care.
So,
That's a lot more than I have.
so I'm not a big like Animal Crossing person. Like I played a little bit. My wife is playing it like every single day.
Mhm.
Like, do you guys think that the like online turnip thing just like completely breaks the game? Like, it seems like you just go on Reddit and just like look for some nerd who's selling turnips for like 500 bells and then bounce and sell your shit.
Yeah, that's been there since the DS version.
It's just not been as easy as it is now
Like,
to
Yeah,
do it. Yeah.
like
But like,
I did that like way back in 2002. Like, and it does spoil the game to some degree, but yes, I have the crown. uh, it's just one of those things where like that's part of the game. At some point, you reach an infinite money status, and you don't care about it anymore. And that's one of the things. So like I have been avoiding. I think Animal Crossing is the only game that I don't play, or that I do play. Like I've been really, since shipping, I have really avoided infinite games. I don't like battle royales. I don't like multiplayer games. I don't want to play anything that goes on forever, because I feel like the only resolution you can have with the game is being like, oh well, I'm sick of this. And that's
You just drift away from it like your high school friends.
yeah, it's just the way it goes, and you may look back on it fondly, but the natural conclusion to the game is always meh, and that's it.
my battery's gonna die. I'll be right back.
God damn it, Steve.
Sorry.
Yeah, I also don't enjoy the live service trend of big AAA games that used to, like, specifically that used to be contained single player experiences and are now becoming not that anymore. Like, it used to like beat an Assassin's Creed game and it was done, but now there's like daily challenges and quests and weekly challenges, and they want you to play the game forever until the new one comes out, I guess. And I don't like that. I like getting to the end and it wraps and I have some closure and I move to the next game. And like all really mainstream AAA games are trying to move into that live service to hook you and stop you from playing all the other games in this oversaturated market like we're talking about.
Right. Stoke, so why is meh bad? And I think meh is bad because it's like not like there are so many great game experiences I've left off like so like either emotionally satisfied or like mentally satisfied in a very significant way, and that like doesn't happen in a game where you just walk away from it. Yeah, like Jane says, you leave on a bit of a low note, or at least a note of total indifference. You don't get any like triumph or lesson or anything like that. It's just like it really does, I think, become disposable entertainment at that point, which is like, I guess old entertainment is disposable, but good entertainment is supposed to like give you something. And Zed says there are too many great games out there to just stick to one game for ages, and yeah, I can agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Although, as Steve's mentioned before on our podcast, if you're like a broke kid, this is like the golden age of being able to play games.
Yeah, I'm also like terrified of that as a developer, right? Because there are so many kids just like growing up thinking that a game like Fortnite or Apex should be free.
Yeah, that's a precedent-setting
That's
seminal
insane.
game.
Like, there's no way an indie developer can compete with that. Like, what am I supposed to do?
They opened the Steam store like
There was
$14.99. That's a battle pass.
It's yeah.
There was like a new game called Warface or something that came out.
Yeah.
And someone posted like, imagine coming up with this game and not releasing it for free, and someone wrote like, it's $20.
Yeah.
Come on,
yeah.
that hurts. That hurts my soul.
Yeah. Did they drop on Steam? Like, I know the game that you're talking about. Let me have a look. Because I guarantee you they're.
I remember one time Oh, for sure. I remember one time I bought Tomb Raider Definite Edition, like the PS3 like remake or whatever when they ported for like $5, and it was like the same week that a big game for like $10 or $15 a game. And I was just like, I'm like, oh, these poor bastards! Like, who's buying this indie game for triple the price of like Tomb Raider?
Yeah,
It's kind of crazy. Like cheap. Not only how cheap these games get, like very quickly. Plus, like PlayStation Plus, like this week they got Call of Duty and Star Wars. Like Epic gave away GTA 5, which is like one of the biggest games
Subscriptions,
ever.
like we were talking about before we started, like subscriptions are changing it too. Like,
yep.
if you can't get into the service, most people don't think your game's like worth playing, worth downloading, or worth spending money on because they're already spending money on this service.
Oh yeah, if I was primarily an Xbox person, I probably wouldn't be buying many games. Like I would just be crushing.
You don't
Game
need
Pass
to.
stuff.
Every Xbox
Yeah.
Game Studio games and Game Pass and a bunch of great indies, and they update it like every other week. Like it's insane.
Right. It used to be I'll wait for the Steam sale. And then it was I'll wait for the Humble Bundle, and then now it's wait for subscription or free on Epic. Like
Yeah.
it's we used to laugh about the race to 99 cents that happened in the mobile industry, and like this is completely 10 times worse. Like it's going to radically change the types of games that we're able to make. And I don't think people really understand that yet, especially if we hit like a pay per minute situation in terms of compensation to the developers, right? Like in those instances where you are, as a developer, encouraged to design something that is going to keep people playing for longer, like that is inherently going to change the type of game that you make. Like no questions asked. It's almost the opposite of the arcade system, right? Where it was like keep them engaged but like burn their quarters, to now just like provide this like base level dopamine drip to them constantly so that they never leave it.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I remember reading about this. Like like people were growing up on Netflix, never saw commercials,
Right.
and now Netflix has been going for 10, 15 years. So these kids are entering like teenagehood and like not really getting used to commercials. Like they don't want to deal with it. And I feel like it's the same thing's going to happen to like all these free to play games. Like all these Fortnite kids are just going to be like, why? Like Fortnite gave me like hours and hours. Like Steven's mentioned it plenty of times. Like Apex Legends, he's played it like hundreds of hours and hasn't dropped a single dollar on these poor
Like
developers.
400 hours in it, but that's not. I think the indie situation's different, and we've talked about it before. If they put out something paid that I wanted, I would support them. And if Apex was like $79.99 game, I'm like, cool, I love Titanfall 2, I'll play your next game. But they didn't do that, and there's nothing I want to buy.
Right.
Well,
But
I'm not going to donate to EA.
but at some point, like you are actually what's being sold, right? Not just as Mistoka says they're selling the data, but you know,
Right.
like the health of the game. Like you're there subsidizing the cost of decent AI, like so with your 400 hours, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's like what Fortnite does with all those in-game, all those in-game events like trailer premieres, concerts, and stuff. Like that's Epic selling their player base to media companies.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's ludicrous. Okay? Tyler's got a question. Do you think we'll ever see a AAA company support indie to make X or Y number of those games free, or will it just continue the route of things like Epic being a good percentage split? I mean, I think we already talked about Sludge Life is like free for a year already, and that's Epic is throwing jumbo money at that for sure. And then
I'm so
Not,
curious about all the
not-
deals too. Like I want to know how the money breaks down. We'll never know, but like
and then I mean
Yeah.
you've got
It's not.
I'm sorry. I'm sure Microsoft
No,
has
it's fine.
just outright bought games for Game Pass, right? Or at least long-term deals. And that is all support to the indie space. The more that the subscription models can compete with each other, the better it's going to be long-term for, I guess, you know, as they compete, these big guys with a lot of money start competing. They're going to throw more money into the space, and they're going to want to consume more of the indies. But you know, that's just my take on it. At the same time, they're probably just going to want to buy up a lot of studios like Microsoft has been doing, and just own them outright.
Yeah, that means like all the studios they bought, like whatever is after We Happy Few, Psychonauts 2, and whatever's after that, all those are just gonna come to Game Pass day one. So if I'm like, hey, do I buy this game on PC or PS4? I have a Game Pass subscription. I'm just gonna stay here, and that's what they're banking on.
I was thinking like how EA Access has like, it's not free, but it's like $30 a year, and they throw like all their big games on it, but then they also have like their indie games like Sea of Solitude and stuff on there too. So
The EA original,
kind of that stuff.
Steve. They have the branding for it.
But
And they have had
A
some
Way
good
Out
ones.
is on.
Unravel was really good.
Yeah.
A Way Out was really good.
I think our definitions of indie games are wildly different. those are AAA to me.
There's so many weird tiers to it. Like, you know, there's AAA, and then like I've seen AA thrown around when people are talking about like third parties. Like,
There's only two tiers: us and them. Okay, get it right.
Okay. It's Vagabond Dog versus the world.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it goes. Until Scott Pilgrim comes back.
Or until Xbox Game Studios buys you.
Good luck. They don't have enough money.
Oh wow! Balls in your court, Microsoft.
Yeah.
Bring an offer.
I'll see you.
Challenge.
This check needs more zeros, Bill. I'm gonna give this back to you.
Destiny 2 is indie.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. I don't know. Destiny 2 is indie. I don't know. I don't think so. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, but
Activision money to start.
by all that same token, like technically we're not indie either, right? Like if you've had any ounce of corporate support, you're not indie, and like we definitely have had corporate support before. You know, we've lost it, but we definitely had it at one point in time. Zed, what are you saying here? The reliance on merch and other things is right. Yeah, it could be true. Like that's the thing where I think you bring up an interesting point. The idea that you know, indies are culture makers in a sense, and there's that cachet of like you know, selling identity or whatever with your entertainment that can come through merch sales and that kind of thing. But to counter that, you know, as somebody who has aggressively pursued merchandise, you know, shop.vagabonddog.com, it's really slim margins. You can't really make a ton of money, even if you're doing good numbers, right? Like, I mean, there's exceptions, of course. Like, you have to do like crazy numbers in order to make a substantial amount of money off of merchandise, or make really cheap merch that a lot of people foolishly buy or whatever. But if you want to make decent merch, like, man, you're really not making much. Like we did a promo, like we wanted to do a half off sale, and like we basically were paying people to get this stuff. Like we were losing money on the sales, but like, you know, we just wanted to do promo and stuff. It's really, really hard to get good money out of it. So I'm very wary of that becoming the means by which indies support themselves. Do you guys buy a lot of indie merch?
Yeah, I buy physical games. Does that count? Like every time like an indie game I like does like a limited run or super rare games, I usually pick up a copy. That probably counts. I buy T-shirts and stuff.
Right.
But other than that, I don't really.
I buy it like at conventions or whatever. I'll buy. I have like Severed shirt, Runbow shirt, Quench. I got this from their Kickstarter, stuff like that. But also, I'm also 6'6" and like 240, 270 pounds, and it's very difficult to find a T-shirt that fits me.
Right. Yeah. I'm in a similar boat.
Yeah, you're in a similar boat. So.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. What's this that you have, Steven?
It's the Celeste Collector's Edition. It's probably my favorite one I got. It's got the strawberry from the game and it like hangs in the box. It's pretty cool. Matt makes games out in BC. The goats.
I feel bad. I should really play Celeste.
Dude,
I've
it's
barely.
free on Epic. It's in your account.
I know I have it. I have it on because it was also a Games for Gold game as well, so I have it on
Yeah.
Xbox.
Yeah, it's the goat. I have a whole bunch of. I like physical games because I get people who I know don't play indie games to try them. Like I have friends at work who have PS4s, and I'm like, oh, you should try this game. I'm like, oh, no, I'm okay. But if I bring the game to them and like put it in front, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it. And then they like it, and I'm like, see, I told you, get over it.
I mean, who doesn't like
The
a
thing-
well-made platformer? I mean, like it's like root game
Yeah.
DNA, right? But
Mwah.
it's usually not the type of thing I seek out.
The big one I've shared around a lot is I have a PS4 copy of Firewatch that I've lent to like almost 15 people at this point, and they've all loved it. And I also got What Remains of Edith Finch, but that's a weird one. Like people either like it or they absolutely hate it.
Right.
And
OG Walking Sims.
yeah, the OG Walking Sims. Oh no, I have Dear Esther too. Actually, that's the OG
That's
Walking
yeah,
Sim.
That earned it.
I thought Gone Home. I thought Gone Home is before all those.
No, Dear
Oh,
Esther was way
Esther's
before.
ancient.
Yeah, that was the Chinese Room, I think, like way back when.
Yeah.
You can lend me Firewatch, by the way. I've never played it.
I can. It's good. It comes with the map in the sleeve, and you know, like the map he pulls out. And oh, you've never played it. God damn it, Steve. Play Firewatch. It's really good. Speaking of
I
studios
will,
getting
once you-
bought and then all their creativity getting neutered, we're never gonna get the next game from Campo Santo.
That.
Gabe
Egyptian
has them
game.
locked in the basement making Half-Life Alyx props.
Oh.
Gone Home was like 15 months after Dear Esther, so it's not. It
15
wasn't
months
crazy.
is a lifetime in video games, Steve. 15 months is like 3 Fortnite seasons. What are you doing? That's ancient history.
Apex, man. We don't. It's Fortnite. Apex is the Canadian one.
It's true, their seasons are longer.
Canadian.
In quotes.
Canadian.
They're just offloading all the Apex stuff to the Canadian studio so they can get back to making Titanfall 3.
Right. Zed brings up an interesting point that there's also like in the music industry there's the business of touring, but like there is no arm of games industry that is like touring, right? There's no live show you can put on as a game developer or event based.
Someone should do that. That's where like I guess that's like
What you can do. Yeah, PAX has like PAX Plays. They did all the Telltale games where they just filled an auditorium with people and they shouted what to do.
Yeah,
But like that doesn't sound fun at all.
No, yeah, Joseph
that kind of-
brings up the conventions too, but like those are not profitable. Those are the opposite of profit. You lose money doing conventions. Like everybody loses money. Even I mean like maybe the behemoth doesn't, but like they're also selling like, you know, tens of thousands of dollars of merch every day at those shows, like no question.
Yeah, the Rooster Teeth booth probably makes their money back in merch, but other than that, like
right. Yeah, the real winners are not the actual game studios. Very very rarely are the you know who makes some money at the conventions? The
Convention
taco
centers?
trucks.
oh, the taco trucks.
Those guys make bank. The guys selling $6 lemonades or whatever, they make
Yeah, I
real
hate
money.
that.
It's not you know, doing conventions is like, God, it's a brutal logistic financial nightmare that you can never escape from once you like really start committing to it.
it's like a necessary evil. Yeah, it's like a necessary evil, right? Like
Is
it's-
it? Is it necessary?
Well, I don't
anymore?
know. You tell me.
I mean,
Do you find it beneficial? though?
we've never not done them, because we just enjoyed them. They're part of our. I want to say like they're actually part of our game design process at this point. You know, designing things to be well shown, having people play it and watching over the corner. Like when the last PAX we did, you know, I sat and watched and watched people play, and then I was live working on the game at the same time, like taking suggestions from the audience, not the audience, the players at the time, and you know, implementing them into the game on a nightly basis, which is kind of what I do on Twitch now. But it's also like it's just part of what we've always done. But since the last PAX East, which was the last, you know, convention before Corona, we've taken part in multiple online events, and my God, the numbers are better. The overhead is lower, and you can actually make more sales directly one-to-one there. Yeah, Steam's still getting its 30% as opposed to selling a Steam key on the show floor, but the numbers speak for themselves. Like, it's way better to do a digital event. So
I always I have this like etched in my brain, but I remember I went to Tokyo Game Show in like 2017 or so, and there was this one like indie studio, like really small booth, and right across from them was Capcom, and it's when they announced Street Fighter 5.
right.
And I'm sure when they saw on the map that they were like right beside Capcom, they're just like, yeah, like everyone's going to be like walking by our booth. And then I remember like walking by and everyone was looking opposite of the booth to look at Street Fighter 5. And I looked over to the guys and they're just like I can remember their faces just being like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, there's no like, might as well just be Ghosts. Like I don't even remember what. I think it was like a mobile game. Like I don't even remember, but the look on their faces said everything. Where they're just like, "What a waste of our time."
That's gotta be so demoralizing. Like, I mean, and God bless the indie mega booth for like separating so many indie devs from that tragedy, right? Like, if you had just like had to deal with like, you know, the conventions, you know, just throwing you wherever, like that's gonna happen to way more devs. But goddamn, yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I've seen so many people drawn to like big gaudy booths away from cool stuff before that it's like a real tragedy. Mistoka says, yeah, a lot of devs are also kind of awkward in person. Yep, that's true.
What? No, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's really rare to have the kind of personality that can like make a game and like you know, interact with people on a one-to-one in-person basis and you know, do it well. But like that's also part of being like indie, is like you have to do everything.
Yeah.
And Joseph says also getting the sales through Steam is better for the Steam algorithm, which is absolutely true. Like Steam wants nothing more than for every single copy of your game to be purchased directly through Steam. Like it's playing.
So if you just give them
Yeah.
If you just hand out keys, then it doesn't matter. They don't care.
Your reviews don't count, right? I can sell keys all day long on our site I mean, Steam doesn't take any cut on those, right? We make 100% of the profit on that, which is the trade-off. But it also contributes nothing to the algorithm, which is the subtle war that they've been playing against Humble Bundle, right? Because you know, I love Humble Bundle, I love Humble Store, but they are working in this really technically gray area of the Steam agreement, where it's like, okay, developers are allowed to sell keys on their own because they're putting in the marketing effort or whatever, and then Humble Bundle just takes all these keys and sells them at a massive discount, undercuts the Steam store, and then you know, so Steam has to react by like, you know, making incentives for developers to continue to sell their game or focus their sales through Steam itself. You know, your reviews don't count to the algorithm. You know, I'm sure that it doesn't really like push you as far, because also like you can't guarantee where those Steam keys have come from or gone to, or who's really in control of them. You know, I could just like pump out 1,000 keys, hand them to some, you know, bot farm and call it a day.
Hey, I'm sorry to do this. I gotta go be a dad. So I'm actually gonna.
Yeah, I mean, it is 8:30. We should probably get.
I don't mean to end it though. I'll join in the chat, but I appreciate you having me on, and it's been a good chat.
No, it's cool.
Steven, you can.
Well, I can stay on if you want, but it's whatever works.
No, we don't want you. We we only want
Steven. Okay, I see. I have been talking a lot.
No, it's good. I'm just joking. It's been lovely having you both, actually.
It's great to be here.
We usually do wrap up at 8. We've actually gone half an hour over what we usually do.
Oh, cool.
But it's been plenty of fun. You guys want to give any shout-outs, pimps, anything? How should people find more about CanadianGameDevs.com? Why should they visit?
If you're looking for jobs, if you're looking for studios to like cold pitch, if you're looking for news about what's going on in the Canadian game scene, if you're looking for events happening in and around you, all those are on our site. You should join our Discord where people are sharing their work all the time, getting feedback. We're also just reacting to the latest goings on in like movies and gaming and talking about it. It's a great little community. There's even a politics channel that's not toxic. I've been on the internet a long time, and it's rare to see a politics channel that's not toxic. So if that's the kind of community you want to be a part of, join our growing Discord. Follow at CanadaGameDevs on Twitter. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, all at CanadianGameDevs. And we just want to cover Canadian games and Canadian creators, and that's our goal. And we try to do that every week in addition to our day jobs. And if you want to support us, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/CanadianGameDevs. You get the podcast early, special channel on the Discord, names at the end of every episode of the show, and our undying gratitude and the knowledge that you're helping put food on the table for Steve's baby. And isn't that, at the end of the night, just make it all worth it?
Truly. All right.
Truly.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming by. Twitch, I'll be back on Saturday and Sunday, 1 p.m. to do more dev streams. Until then, I guess, keep it real, have fun, play some games. Take care of each other. Bye.
Bye.